I'm not sure if the Cyclones have done more damage to the Colorado men's basketball team or my projected lifespan in the last week, but that might be a close contest. Now, a close contest on the gridiron against Utah, a wrestling duel against a team out east that certainly didn't go according to plan, a close women's basketball game in Hilton against Drake, two close contests in Maui by the men's basketball team, and a heartbreaker of a volleyball game versus Utah where three awful calls in set 5 made the difference, all happened within the span of 5 days. And that probably can't be good for my heart health. Beating the Buffs by 27, on the other hand, that might help it out a little bit. Either way, tickets to an Iowa State game probably ought to come with heart medication. Today is Friday, November 29th. I'm Matt Menson, and welcome to the Cornfield Sports Pod. Blake, on the left of your screen here, how's it going?
This team is going to be the reason that I have everlasting heart problems at such a young age.
Dude, I swear in the women's not the volleyball game, the women's basketball game on Sunday, I was having chest pains.
Oh
my goodness, they're gonna give me heart attacks.
These games cause me physical pain.
They're the reason I'm beginning to experience a little bit of receding hairline at the age of 21. That's the way this is going. But yeah, first one on the docket here for games that are causing my adrenaline levels and my blood pressure to be way too high. Football. Won at Utah, 31-28. And as it turns out, Utah was really lucky that the game was even this close in the first place and that they had a chance to put it in overtime at the last second. Now, they went wide right, but Blake, as it turns out, Utah is actually really bad this year.
Okay, so what's backing up all their talk from last year? Because they're going to run the conference. They're going to use this to get an invite from the Big Ten.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. They have nothing to offer the Big Ten right now. They don't have the media market in SLC. So SLC just is not comparable in terms of media draw than what the Big Ten just pulled in Seattle and LA. So, yeah, good luck with that one, Utah. But as it turns out, when you actually start breaking this game down and how the teams were performing on the field, turns out Utah is actually really bad this year. We kind of already knew that. You know, they only have one conference win, and it's against the worst team in the conference. But they were gifted 15 points by the defensive and special teams touchdowns that they had. Their offense didn't even do half the scoring. They were 3 for 10 on third downs. They only had 224 total yards on offense. That broke down 129 passing, 95 rushing. Somehow Isaac Wilson was actually 8 for 8 for 74 yards, and he wasn't playing that badly until he got injured. And then it completely fell apart after he did. 95 yards rushing against one of the worst rushing defenses in the Big 12, the Iowa State's got. That's awful. That's real, real bad. And if your backup quarterback is your leading rusher, you've got some introspection to do. That is not a good look for the Utes when your backup quarterback is your leading rusher. Yeah, Micah Bernard, their starting running back, completely shut down, which is a really weird thing to say as an Iowa State fan this year, because we don't shut down starting running backs this year, not with how injured our linebacking core is. But Micah Bernard averaging only 2.5 yards per carry on 17 carries. Blake, the Utes couldn't stop shooting themselves in the foot either. 6 penalties for 57 yards. Compare that to 1 penalty for 5 yards in the Cyclones.
There were some major points where we couldn't stop shooting ourselves in the foot.
Well, we shot ourselves in the foot a couple times on a couple fluke plays. But that's definitely you can't say that's not you can't say that we couldn't stop shooting ourselves in the foot. We only 1 penalty and a couple of fluke plays. That's it. That was the only bad plays we had that entire game. So I don't think that's a fair argument to make.
Granted, I wasn't watching the entire game because I was working, but then I came back later.
Yeah, there's really no way you can fairly make that argument. Um, I mean, Utah was 10 minutes behind Iowa State in time of possession. They were not in control of the game at all. Iowa State was very much in control of the game. And if it hadn't been for those fluke plays, that punt block for a touchdown and the pick six, the game isn't even remotely close. The pick six drive was on pace for an Iowa State score. So you subtract 15 from Utah's score, that gives them 13, and you add a minimum of 3 to Iowa State's score. Assuming all else goes the same, which we know it doesn't because that's not how football works. But let's say for the hell of it that everything else went the same. Well, now you're talking about a score of 34-13 Cyclones when you subtract 2 fluke plays.
Yeah, so
that you can't plan on.
Subtract those, and we're very much in control.
Yeah, there's and if we did end up having to go into overtime, I don't really have a whole lot of doubt that we would have found a way to win it.
Yeah, I agree, man.
The way we were playing in that game, I was pretty confident either way. So yeah, 6 penalties for 57 yards, 10 minutes behind ISU in time of possession, basically no offensive yards, living on dying on fluke plays, and oh yeah, their kicker can't put the ball between the uprights in crunch time. So yeah, the game wasn't as close as the scoreboard indicated. They got lucky. It gave them half their points. So yeah, barring any more fluke plays, Iowa State would have won it in OT. I think it would have needed another fluke play, some kind of crazy interception or something for Utah to stand a chance. Whereas us on the other end, we actually had to earn our 31 points. And when our offense were putting up numbers like we're gonna win plenty of games. Got nothing to be concerned about. We punted 3 times compared to Utah's 4, and that does include that blocked punt for a touchdown. We're not punted. I mean, that means there's an entire quarter where we did not punt. That's good. Good teams do that. So we definitely have momentum going on our side. We performed well. So we need to carry that into the biggest game that Iowa State has ever played. Tomorrow. Farmageddon. Speaking of Farmageddon, Brett Yormark, you need to save Farmageddon. Enough of this getting rid of it in 2027 nonsense with this schedule that looked like it was made by ChatGPT. Cyclone Larry put together a better schedule in 2 minutes.
This talk brings me back to last year, dude.
It took months for the Big 12 to put this schedule together, and it ended up being atrocious. And they renamed the rivalry, too. Kind of an irrelevant point for this show. But seriously, are we going to call TCU and Baylor the Blue Bonnet Battle now? What an awful name for a rivalry.
I haven't heard about it until now. It's like, I just knew that they changed the name.
Well, they changed the name and they made a new trophy for it. But, like, the rivalry is so much better of a name. Can you imagine if they changed the name of Farmageddon to something stupid?
Both teams acknowledge it as Farmageddon, so
both teams of that game in Texas call it the Revivalry. Nobody calls it the Blue Bonnet Battle except for the Big 12 themselves. What a dumb name for a rivalry.
Blue Bonnet Battle. Oh my goodness. But oh my gosh. Like you said before, like the biggest game in Iowa State history. Yeah, this is bigger than any PlayStation Fiesta Bowl, any bowl game, because like that's out of the picture now.
Well, we're talking about now. If we win this game, we're basically a lock for the Big 12 championship. You win the Big 12 championship, you're in the playoff. Enough of this, the Big 12 might not get in. And the Big 12 is getting in. That's all talk from people trying to get clicks. The Big 12 will be in the playoff. We're not going to get passed over for both Boise and Tulane. A 2-loss Tulane is not a better pick than a 2-loss Big 12 team. It's not. So we don't got to worry about that. The Big 12 will be in the college football playoff. If Iowa State wins tomorrow, they have a chance to play into the college football playoff, which will be another thing that we get to hold over the team out east because they've never made the college football playoff. So,
what else is on the line, Matt?
What else is on the line? Let's see here. Right now, I don't think the game is sold out yet, which is absolutely ridiculous. I know it's going to be cold. I don't care. This is the most significant game Iowa State's ever played in, and it's against a rivalry opponent. Like I said, save Farmageddon, Brett Yormark, pay attention to what the fans want. First 10-win season on the line. It's never happened before. It's about time it happened. Right now, after this year, we're the last team left in the FBS, I believe, for it not to have happened. It needs to end. Trip to the Big 12 championship game. I already mentioned that. Arlington is guaranteed with a win. So, yeah, it's a trip to travel away from this Iowa cold for a weekend and go down to Texas. And like I said, it's a play-in series to the college football playoff. We've got all of that on the line. This is huge. A win means all of that. Well, except saving Farmageddon. We need it. We need it bad. The stakes are very high. The stakes have never been higher for Iowa State football. I don't think it's even been remotely close where we have had the stakes higher.
I want to go back to not being sold out yet. Public parking is sold out, so that's a good sign that it might happen soon. But I want to say for anyone who does plan to go to Farmageddon this year, please dress in layers, stay warm. Stock up on hand and feet warmers if you haven't. I've got a few myself since I'll be on the sidelines this time around. And please take warm breaks if you need it. The tickets should scan out until the end of the fourth quarter.
If you need a warm break, just go stand in the bathroom for 3 minutes. You don't need to leave the stadium.
How warm are the bathrooms?
Warmer than the concourse.
Oh, well, yeah.
They got the little air dryers in there so you can warm your hands up.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Either way, you sound like my mom. Oh, take care of yourself, be warm. I'm like, no, I'm here for football.
I sound like Freddie's mom from iCarly.
Sure, I mean, I never watched iCarly, so Victorious was the way to go.
No, we like Victorious.
But
that's besides the point.
Besides the point. How about something more relevant to the game here? J.R. Singleton and Ben Bramer are both slated to be back to play. That's a big deal. It adds necessary trench depth on both sides of the ball, especially on defense. We need that. J.R. Singleton's good. He's a starter. We need him back to deal with the Kansas State run game because they've got a run game. They don't have a pass game that's worth anything, but they can run the ball, and we need to be able to deal with that as best as possible. On the opposite side of that, Ben Bramer is going to add a weapon that we can use. He's probably third option behind Knoll and Higgins. We'll see what they do with Gabe Burkle. Rocco's been developing a little bit more of a connection with Gabe Burkle on the gridiron here in the absence of Bramer. So maybe Burkle is getting some of those touches that Bramer otherwise would have been getting before the injury. But it's a good update to have. Getting guys healthy again. We're still not going to see Brzezina. We're still not going to see Caleb Bacon. They're done for the season. But defense. This one's an interesting one. K-State matches up with us very well. They're right behind us in total defense, and they're fourth in the conference in scoring defense, and there's very little difference in the top of the league in scoring defense. They allow, I think, 2 more points per game than us, 21.5 as opposed to 19.5. The top of the conference in terms of scoring defense is just a log jam, and the order can reshuffle on any given week. The K-State pass defense, not particularly great. They're in the bottom half of the league. I think we need to use Jaden Higgins. We need to use Jalen Knoll and exploit them. Use Bramer as a third option to take some heat off of them. Leak the ball to Carson Hansen or Jelon Jackson every now and then to balance it out. But I think if we go pass heavy, we're going to put ourselves in a good spot. The K-State run defense is significantly better. We're gonna have some struggles trying to establish the ground game against that. I know how much Campbell loves to establish the ground game. That's going to be a struggle to do. We have to establish the pass game first to open up the run. We need to play to our advantages here. As for us, when we are on defense, that K-State run game is very dangerous. They are third in the Big 12. They're behind UCF and Kansas, two teams that were able to put up a lot of points against us. But their passing game leaves something to be desired while sitting in the bottom half of the conference. That makes them more similar to UCF than it does to Kansas. UCF, as you recall, we were able to pull out a win against. Kansas, we were not. So if K-State is more similar to UCF, that's an advantage for us. Iowa State does need to make this game one-dimensional, Blake, because we need to be able to find a way to commit extra help to stopping the run. If we can commit Bo Freeler or, Malik Verdon as extra help to stop that run, if we can bring in more blitz packages than we normally do to get guys in there and try to stuff running back, try to stop Giddens and Johnson early on. If we can get some heat on Johnson on passing plays and get some sacks in early in the game and make him afraid to get hit, that's going to be huge. What we end up doing on defense early, if we play conservatively on defense early, I think that's going to be a problem for us the entire game. If we come out very aggressive, if we come out and we're sending 5-6 guys, that might play out very well for us. But we've had difficulty with mobile quarterbacks. That's one of the things we need to do to try to deal with Johnson, to make him less mobile. To get him a little bit more frightened to be running around. But we also need to be spying him because he's going to try to run. I don't know why we never do it. We need to do it. Now's the time. But if we can't find a way to slow down that 1-2 punch of Avery Johnson and DJ Giddens, we're going to be in a world of hurt. And it's going to come down to the offense alone to win this game in a shootout. If we can't stop them, it's going to be a high-scoring affair.
We can't have that, man.
No. I think in a high-scoring affair we can win it because our offense plays a higher tempo. But that's not a situation I want to get ourselves caught in where K-State is scoring a lot of points. That worries me a little bit. The K-State pass defense is only 11th in the Big 12. Way in the back half. They may have a lot of struggles trying to deal with Higgins and Knoll. And then, obviously, you've got that return of Ben Bramer that I mentioned earlier. So, Blake, the spread on this game, ISU minus 2.5, over-under is 51.5. What do you got?
If I'm being brutally honest, I feel like the nervousness of like the stakes of this game is probably going to catch on to the team. I have K-State winning 35-21.
Ooh, bad.
If I'm being brutally honest, I hate being this honest, but I'm still optimistic about this game. Still very excited. I want our boys to have it all. But if I'm being brutally honest, in predicting, this is what I got.
All right, I don't think K-State's defense is that good to hold us that low. Especially their pass defense. I think we have the ability to carve their pass defense up. And as long as we lean on that, we'll open up the run game enough to take some heat off Higgins and Knoll. Bramer will be back. That's a good prospect. He's a decent blocker. That will also help open up the run game. We're scoring over 30 points a game, so getting held to 21 seems a little bit unlikely in this situation. I actually have us winning this game 38-30.
Yes.
So I got ISU minus 2.5, and then I also have the over hitting.
Yes. And like I said, I hope to dear God that I'm wrong.
All right. And this game, 6:30 p.m., Jack Trice Stadium. Be there tomorrow. or if it's longer than a 6-hour drive and that's your only excuse, it has to be longer than 6 hours for it to be an excuse. Then you can watch it on Fox. Otherwise, be at the game.
Also, shout out Fox for covering us for a overwhelming majority of the season.
Yeah, they give us a lot better coverage than ESPN does, that's for sure. ESPN just wants to drag this conference down. Meanwhile, Fox is actually building it up since we're their secondary property. Volleyball, that's a program that needs some building up. 2 more losses here in the last week. They lost at Arizona in 4 sets. They narrowly escaped with set 2. We took it 25-23. Aside from that, we did not look good in this match. Whopping 26 attack errors across the game. We hit only 163. Set 1 was a colossal embarrassment. We lost the set by 12. We only hit .061, and we had 9 kills to 7 errors. That's about the story of the game. There really ain't a whole lot more to tell. It was ugly, and the Cats got a sound win in Tucson. Moving on to a more entertaining and much more heartbreaking game. 2 nights ago.
Yep.
Wednesday night. 18th ranked Utah comes to town. We lose it in 5 sets. We should not have lost this match. I will die on the hill that we were supposed to win this match based on how we played. Don't even get me started on set 5. Too late. I'm started. Set 5 was a disaster. You know it's bad when the expression on every coach and every player on the Iowa State bench is the same as like if you had insulted their mother. That's how insulting some of these calls were to Iowa State. It's that look that just says, what the hell? You know? Like, what were these refs doing? It was atrocious. The 4th, 5th, and 7th Utah points were absolutely robbed from the Cyclones, and I'll explain every single one of them here to you in just a second. But that was easily enough to change the result of the game because we only lost the set by 3 points. -3 for the Cyclones and +3 for the Utah makes a net difference of 6 points. And like I said, we only lost by 3, which means instead of losing it 15-12, we should have won it 15-12. Assuming everything else plays out the same, and in volleyball, that's actually fairly possible. So yeah, the first one, 4th point of the set. Or the 4th Utah point of the set, I should say. What should have been a kill by Pam McCune. That's what it should have been. It was called out, even though there was a touch on the block. After review, they said it was no touch. We all saw the camera angle on the Jumbotron. I went back and looked at it today. It's still just as obvious as it was before. The camera from the back clearly shows index finger movement from Utah's Rianne Voss as she touched the ball. As she was blocking it, you could see her left index finger move to the side as the ball pushed it. It was a touch. There was no doubt about it. It should have been point Iowa State. The ref said that there was no touch, even though it was blatantly obvious to anybody watching, and they gave the point to Utah. 1 point stolen.
Reminder what they look for is clear and conclusive.
It was pretty darn obvious. There was no doubt about it. I mean, we saw that first camera angle from the back, and pretty much everybody in our section, we see the first camera angle. We reach up in the air because we all saw it hit her left index finger. We hold our left hands up in the air and we start hitting our left index finger with our other hand to, signal, hey, this is what happened. We all saw it hit her left index finger. We're yelling that at the refs. Like, we all saw it. This is what happened in detail. This isn't like, oh, it was a touch, but we can't explain to you how. Like, no. We can explain to you in detail exactly how it happened. So, 1 point stolen. 5th point for Utah of this set. Blocked by Maya Duckworth. Called out. Christy Johnson-Lynch challenges it, as she had challenged the previous point. And she had lost the challenge on the previous point, remember. So she challenges this one as well. The block by Maya Duckworth It rolled off the forearm of the aforementioned Voss. The block was called out, and the call stood on review. Now, two of the camera angles didn't really show much of anything. From the back, it looked like maybe it bounced off of her shoulder. You could see a slight change in the direction, but you weren't sure if it was actually a change or not. And then you move to the net cam. And the net cam showed it very, very obviously deflecting off of Voss's forearm. There was a very obvious change in direction where it was moving back, and then it went almost straight down after it hit her forearm. And then that call stood, even though it shouldn't. It should have been reversed in favor of Iowa State. And then to add insult to injury, that meant Christy Johnson Lynch had no more challenges to use either. So a couple points later, when we get to Utah's 7th point of the set, which was the third one that was stolen, pancake attempt by Utah libero, Clarion Fector, the ball hit the ground, but officials allowed the point to continue being played. Utah was able to take the point, and if you go back and you look at that replay, you can go find it on ESPN Plus in the archives. The direction that the ball bounced and the direction that the ball spins is incredibly indicative that it was down, that it bounced off the floor, and that it was not successfully dug. It's because after it bounced, it had topspin, and it was bouncing backwards away from the net. A successful pancake dig will usually knuckleball, and it will usually bounce back toward the net, or it will bounce straight up, or go to one of the sides. It doesn't continue going backwards in the same direction. When it goes off the floor, it goes in the same direction. But that's what happened. So, almost impossible that was dug. Every indication says that ball hit the floor. I mean, this is the point when Hilton Coliseum got real mad because we all saw it go down, and Christie has no more challenges to use, so that ball cannot get reviewed. Third point, stolen for Utah.
Now, a reminder that Hilton Coliseum is able to see a much bigger and clearer angle, like with the video boards. Like, given that this year they were so much more clear.
Yeah, it was pretty brutally obvious to everybody watching there that those 3 points should have went to Iowa State. And these were 3 out of 4 consecutive points for Utah. So we're talking major, major momentum swing in the 5th set, the ever-critical 5th set. Just atrocious work. Atrocious work by that officiating crew. Or at least I should say it's the down ref. Either the line judges and the up ref don't really have a whole lot of input on those reviews, or they don't have any input on the reviews. But my goodness, what a travesty that was. So maybe volleyball's about to get their own apology wall here from the Big 12 for bad officiating like football does. Because holy smokes, that was garbage. Now, the first 4 sets, let's go rewind back in time a little bit. The first 4 sets were dramatic as well because of how the teams were actually playing, not because of nonsense from officials. ISU took sets 1 and 3. We actually went on a 10-0 run at the end of set 1. That was entertaining. Would have been real nice to carry some of that momentum into set 2. Didn't happen. Utah took sets 2 and 4. But set 4, our offense had a complete and utter collapse. We had been doing good about keeping the errors to a minimum prior to that point in the game. But if you can't hit the ball inbounds, Blake, bad things are going to happen. ISU hit 10 errors in set 4. In sets 2 and 3, combined, ISU had 3 attack errors. That's it. No, we didn't even win set 2. We had 2 errors in set 2. Utah just happened to hit really well in set 2.
Yeah.
Both teams played particularly well in set 2, actually.
That's just gonna sink your morale for the rest of the game. I know.
Yeah,
I know
it
it was
does.
set
Well,
4.
Well, the thing is, we came back and we didn't even play badly in set 5. Again, like I said, we should have won set 5. I'll die on that hill. But set 4, what a travesty that was. Not much. I mean, it was somewhat better than that set 1 at Arizona, but set 1 here at home against Utah, or not set 1, set 4 here at home against Utah, not pretty. About the only shining light through that, Maya Duckworth played the game of her career. I think 23 kills is a career high for her, and that's what she had. She hit 327, 2 block assists as well, so that's good for 24 points from Maya. But Iowa State, man, we played better than Utah across the board, and we still couldn't pull out a win. 5 more points than Utah, 2 more kills, 3 more aces. That's twice as many as Utah had. 2 more assists, 17, a staggering 17 more digs. And the only place where Utah outplayed us was on attack errors, which they had 19, we had 23. So errors kill us again. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not optimistic about fixing that tonight, where we got to play the second best team in the Big 12, Kansas. Senior night, Brooke Stonestreet's our only senior, so get to celebrate Brooke tonight. Hopefully she gets to have a win for her last game with the program, because we know Iowa State's not going dancing this year. 2 of Kansas's players have been drafted into the Pro Volleyball Federation. They got talent. Toyosi Onabanjo and Cameron Turner. Onabanjo was a first-round pick. Turner was a third-round. Onabanjo's got 200 kills and 100 blocks, or over 200 kills and over 100 blocks on the season. That's quite a stat line. She's going to be a menace to deal with tonight.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to be at 5 p.m. It's going to be in Hilton Coliseum or on ESPN+. We prefer you watch it from Hilton Coliseum, because if we want to have a chance at beating Kansas, we need a loud and rowdy arena.
If you guys are back for Farmageddon, come to volleyball.
Yeah, if you have football tickets for Farmageddon, you can actually stop at the Hilton Coliseum ticket office tonight and get a complimentary ticket to the volleyball game. So if you've got a football ticket and you don't have other plans tonight, come to the volleyball game. If you have a football ticket and you do have other plans tonight, they've just been changed. Come to the volleyball game.
No, we don't care about your Thanksgiving. You got to come to Hilton.
You should have had Thanksgiving yesterday. Men's basketball. Busy week for them.
That's a busy week, and such, like, a lot of tough battles too. Like with this whole Maui tournament, especially. But their first one with Auburn.
Close games to start out. Heartbreaker against Auburn. We lost it to them at the last second after Auburn orchestrated a pretty memorable comeback. I'm not going to lie. I got to give them credit for that one. Was a 16 point comeback?
It was around 18, 15 point.
18. Well, 18 and 15 are very different. I think it was 16. I don't have that. I don't have that in my notes.
I think it was as high as 18 before the first half, or
okay.
Before the end of the first half.
Either way, ended on a Janai Broom tipped in ball at the last second. Curtis Jones tried to heave a 3/4 court shot to win it, but it didn't end up being all that close.
But a turnover for us, like, in order for that to happen, that's what killed us.
Well, I think the killer was Deshaun Jackson's flagrant foul against Dylan Cardwell.
Yeah, that was a huge setback.
If that doesn't happen, then Auburn doesn't get 2 shots in the ball and we win the game. That is the difference right there. Was a stupid decision by Deshaun Jackson. And if we win that game, based on how I understand that the transitive property doesn't apply, but based on how Auburn performed against North Carolina and against Memphis, I think that while we are pretty much on par with Auburn in terms of who's better, I think we should be pretty clearly better than North Carolina and Memphis. If we beat Auburn, we probably win Maui. And instead, we lose it to a team who very well may have a case to be the number one team in the country. We'll get down. We'll get to that in just a minute here. But that's the game against Auburn right there. Second game, we're in the losers bracket. We beat Dayton 89-84. Another close game. Dayton sure made it scary for a while. And they might be real scary in March, the way they played tough against North Carolina and against us, and they beat UConn. Now, granted, UConn is probably a fraud, but they were still the number 2 ranked team in the country at the time. So Dayton may not have had the best week ever, taking 2 losses in Maui and having to get 7th place down there, when they definitely were not the 7th best team there. When we get into conference play, don't be shocked if Dayton is just running the A10 and they get into the top 25. The Dayton team is good. Make no mistake. They're a dangerous team. They're not a Dayton's team I would want to run into in March.
No. They're definitely making it in March.
They had a 20-point lead against the Tar Heels, and they blew it. Yeah, talk about dramatic comebacks in Maui. Ain't no lead safe. UConn blew theirs against Memphis. We blew ours against Auburn. Dayton blew theirs against North Carolina. That's 3 out of the 4 first-round games.
With Dayton, you got to mention Keyshawn Gilbert.
Yeah, what a game he had.
He had an amazing game. Clocked in 24 points in this game. Get us back in the winning column. He went 6-8 from the floor and 12-14 from the stripe.
Getting to the stripe that many times is crazy. That's it. I mean, 14 free throws for an entire team in one game. That's kind of run of the mill. 14 for a single player? Holy smokes. We're talking NBA numbers now. But yeah, go ahead.
Towards the end of the game, he was able to draw a flagrant 1 against Dayton, and he actually got some blood drawn. So, who does that sound like?
Anybody that gets hit in the eye with an elbow? Or the nose? Or
I can't remember. But I
mean, if you're taking shots to the face, blood's kind of a likely thing.
Oh yeah. I would know.
So is it story time for after we get off the show here?
Oh yep. I don't mind.
All right. Anyway. So that one, lower performing game for Taman Lipsey. Got into foul trouble early. We get through that one with the win. Colorado. I mentioned in the intro, we beat them by 27. We dang near put up 100 piece against them. If we hadn't backed off in the last 2 minutes, we would have. Blake, why were you feeling so nervous about this game?
Because they beat UConn.
Who-con?
Hmm?
Who-con?
Who?
Who? Who-con? They're a joke. They're a fraud. That number 2 next to UConn's like a fake ID. It ain't real. They're not good.
Don't tell Dan Hurley.
Dan Hurley's about to have an aneurysm on the sidelines the way he's acting. He needs to calm down some before he actually does have a health problem. Like, I'm not even joking.
Nah. I've known a few coaches in my time that like started developing health problems as they aged, especially. So
well,
it's no joke.
He's letting his mental stress over the game become physical stress, and that's damaging. But that's besides the point right now because we're talking about ISU Colorado. The Buffs kept it tight for a little while. We were like about in the early 20s in scoring, and then ISU blew them out of the water from there.
On a 25 and 12 run, like towards the end of the first half.
Momcilovic was 6 for 9 from 3, scored 24 points, career best game for him. He was doing crazy. Cujo, who didn't even start this game, was right behind him at 19 points. Great game for him. Every single one of our starters scored in double figures. And it was our best offensive showing of the entire season. So somehow we perform better offensively against a P4 Big 12 opponent, or P5, I guess it's basketball. The Big East is a power conference. Against a Power 5 opponent in the best conference, the Big 12, and we damn near put up 100 piece on them. We didn't even do that to Mississippi Valley State. What is going on here? Where has this offense been?
Mississippi Valley State.
Our offense actually passed our defense in KenPom. But moreover, Feast Week had a bit of an effect on the rankings here. Or it will have a bit of an effect on the rankings here. Kansas defeated Duke. That's a ranked win. They've got an argument to stay at number 1, considering they're still undefeated and got a couple big wins here. UConn, who is currently ranked number 2, definitely won't be anymore. They go winless at Maui. They lose to Memphis, they lose to Colorado, and they lose to Dayton. So they have 3 unranked losses now. Yeah, they're gonna tumble. They're gonna plummet behind us. We'll pass them in the rankings. 3rd ranked Gonzaga. They took a loss to West Virginia in overtime. I would say there's not really any doubt that this is a worse loss than the one we took. Now, granted, they have a better win than us with their win against Baylor, so we'll see how that lines up in the standings. But I think Gonzaga falls behind us. You got number 4 Auburn, who won Maui. I think they have the best case to be the number 1 team in the country after securing that dramatic win against us, convincingly beating a ranked North Carolina team, and then beating the brakes off of Memphis in the championship.
Remember that Tyrese Hunter was one of the big talks of like the Invitational as a whole. So the fact that Auburn was able to shut them down
and Janai Broom made sure that everybody knew that Tyrese Hunter was not the best player in that tournament. That's for sure. And then, so also factor this in. The higher that Auburn is ranked, the less the loss to them hurts us.
So
Moving
this was
on.
good for us.
Yep. Well, beating them would have been better, but
Oh yeah.
the next best option is to win all of the rest of our games and then have them go undefeated. To have it be the least hurtful loss possible. Notice how I'm not using the term quality loss. It's not a real thing. Moving on, we already discussed our results. Houston lost to Alabama, so Houston won't overtake us. That's not going to prevent Alabama from overtaking us, though. 7th and 8th ranked Tennessee and Kentucky haven't done anything special in the last week. They're playing no-name teams. They remain undefeated. So Alabama, Tennessee, and Kentucky all have a somewhat reasonable shot of passing us in the rankings. I don't know if they all do. Worst case scenario, we only drop 1 spot with Auburn, Kansas, Alabama, Tennessee, and Kentucky ahead of us. Does the AP want to put 4 SEC teams in the top 5 in basketball? I kind of doubt it. So like I said, that's a worst case scenario situation. But our next game will be against 15th ranked Marquette. First sold out game at Hilton Coliseum of the year. Student section needs to fill it out because everybody else is going to fill it out. If the student section doesn't fill it out, it's going to look bad. So students, show up.
It's like
Wednesday.
it's literally like the closest thing we get to Cyhawk like before finals and dead week.
Yeah.
It's
Wednesday.
Like there's no excuse.
Wednesday,
It's
7 p.m. Hilton Coliseum. Be there.
If they could show up for Cyhawk, like
for those of you who are not able to procure tickets because they are sold out now, you guess you have your excuse to watch it from home. Right now, the game is currently slated to be on ESPN Plus. I think it's probably going to get flexed to one of the main networks. Blake, you got a take on that?
Because on the main ESPN websites, like on the schedule, it doesn't currently show that it's on ESPN Plus.
On the Iowa State schedule, it does still say ESPN Plus.
On Iowa State schedule, it does.
So what that makes it look like is it was originally scheduled for ESPN Plus. Iowa State's not going to change it until they hear anything differently, but ESPN is probably in the process of getting ready to flex it.
Yes. So
Let's
hopefully that
see.
happens fairly soon.
Yep, we're running a little low on time here, so we got to move through women's basketball and wrestling quick here. Women's basketball versus Drake. Bounced back from the UNI game, but we didn't bounce back all that well.
Audie Crooks did lead the way with the in-state rivalry. She made the winning shots in the final seconds versus Drake. She had a good look.
The fact that we had to have a winning shot against Drake is pitiful. We should be better than them. We're supposed to be a top 10 team. We are not a top 10 team.
No. Drake was able to get the game tying layup with 9 seconds left. That's really all the time that we needed.
Yeah, I mean, we allowed Caitlin Dinnebeer to score 39 points on us. I don't know what she's doing at Drake. She belongs at a power school, probably a top 10 school. Get her over here. But Drake, they went on a run at the end of the game to make it close. They got a game-tying layup with 9 seconds left. And thank God we had that 9 seconds. But, I mean, there's no reason that we should be allowing teams to get this close. We shouldn't have allowed UNI to beat us by a considerable margin. Drake barely beating us. Had that game been at Drake would have won. Not a good look for the Cyclones. We're going to plummet in the rankings more. And, oh, man, this team got embarrassed yesterday. We lost by 40 to Carolina. Now, Carolina was coming off of a loss of their own. You knew they were going to be as focused as they could possibly be. I couldn't drink enough at family Thanksgiving. You know, that would have been a bad look. You know, to drink enough to forget this game. But there's a part of me that wanted to. I also would like to unilaterally declare that this game never happened. You know, go back, change history. Can't do that either.
I second.
I tuned into this game for maybe 10 minutes, said this is a drive-by shooting, and shut the game off.
Yeah. Let's just go to Wikipedia earlier and change the results.
I'm done talking about this game. That one was brutal.
Yeah, we sound
do better. Tomorrow they play Middle Tennessee. We need to escape Fort Myers with a win.
It's like we can't leave 0-2.
So yeah, that'll be tomorrow at 12:30 on what is this network?
Women's Sports Network?
I've never heard of this. Our first game is on Fox, and now we get demoted to... What is this? I've never heard of it.
Hold up.
Why can't women's sports just be played on regular networks?
I don't freaking know. But let's move on to
treat
wrestling.
Treat them like the dudes. Give them airtime on Fox. Give them airtime on ESPN. Yeah, exactly. Whatever. Instead of giving them some third-rate network. Treat them better than that. And then Tuesday, at home, USC Upstate. At least that's on a network that we heard of. It's on ESPN+. I'll be watching that game from Hilton Coliseum, so I don't care about the network, but I don't know.
So it is women's sports.
Maybe after that drubbing by Carolina, you don't have the motivation to come to the game, and I'll be honest, I don't care, but I don't blame you. So come to the game, but it's hard for me to hold it against you if you don't.
Tomorrow it is on Women's Sports Network. I don't know if there's
I've never heard of it before.
Subscription. These non-con tournaments for the women's games, you tend to get on these no-name networks that nobody's ever heard of.
Well, it's because they gotta sell those media rights. The tournament has to sell the media rights separately.
They have to. Like this is just
because they're not part of any conference or NCAA package. Anyway, wrestling. I don't have anything better to discuss from the last week. They lost at the team out east. The final score was 21-15. The first 4 bouts all went the opposite way of how I thought they were going to go. I thought we were going to lose at 125 and at 141. It went the other way around. And I thought we were going to win at 133 and 149. Went the other way around. So Mesa beat ranked Kale Peterson. 9th ranked Drake Ayala beat 5th ranked Evan Frost. Zach Redding, who's unranked, beat 31st ranked Ryder Block. 4th ranked Kyle Parco beat 7th ranked Anthony Ecamendia. Then we move into the next one, even farther away from how I thought this was going to go.
Exactly.
Paniro Johnson beat Ja'Cory Teamer, top-ranked Ja'Cory Teamer, by the way, by an injury default. I didn't see that one coming. And then after that, it went a little bit more about how I expected. The lone exception to that was at 184. But at 165, second-ranked Michael Caliendo defeated Connor Uten. That was to be expected. Maybe if MJ Gaitan had wrestled, we would have had a chance to beat that one. But who knows? Patrick Kennedy defeated Aiden Riggins by tech fall at 174. That one hurt us. Angelo Ferrari defeated 15th ranked Evan Bachman at 184. That one did not go as expected. I don't like seeing a Ferrari brother win either. Those guys are not good dudes. 197, second ranked Stephen Buchanan beat Christian Carroll by major decision. I think that was kind of expected. And then at heavyweight, Yonger Bastida beat 13th ranked Ben Keeter. Wrestling has an off week. They'll play in Las Vegas next weekend, but not much to cover for them right now for a little while. But what you can do in the time until wrestling plays next is that you can follow the Cornfield Sports Pod on Twitter at CSportsPod. You can find Blake
At Blake Attack 1846.
Of course, you can find me at SFMattISU. Tap the follow button on Spotify, plus button on Apple. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Rumble, and ring that little bell. You can also find us on Amazon, CastBox, or Good Pods if you actually use those. But anyway,
This has been Blake Peterson.
I'm Matt Menson, and this has been the Cornfield Sports Pod.